Breaking, horrifying news this morning. A United States military helicopter collided with a commercial airline jet over the skies of Washington, D.C. in a very mysterious, very dark, very deadly collision, and there are dozens dead. Many of them are currently still being rescued from the crash site right now. Footage is limited of the actual crash, but what you are seeing right here is a United States Army helicopter, Blackhawk, colliding with an American Airlines plane right above Washington, D.C. The remains of the crash are in the Potomac River that runs along Washington, D.C.'s flank and flanking some of the largest monuments and most famous places in all of the country. There is footage of the collision and this crash from various geocams. You can see here, this is the crash itself, lighting up the sky in a massive fireball, still tons of traffic. This happening at approximately 10 p.m. last night. At the time, there were many incorrect reports about what actually happened, but now we have a clearer picture that this was a crash that could have totally been prevented. According to the air traffic controller, they continued to ask the helicopter, the military Blackhawk helicopter, to pass behind the jet. This was an American Airlines jet. It was a large jet flying from Wichita, Kansas. The reconstruction of the flight path shows that a pretty typical Washington, D.C. Approach. If you've flown into Washington, D.C., certainly you've done this path before. This is flying into an airport called Reagan National Airport. And what you can see here is the yellow plane. This is the plane that is eventually going to be hit, doing what is a very standard approach into the airport itself. Now, this is the airport with the shortest runway in all of America. It's very tightly packed in, very close to Washington, D.C., literally minutes away from the monuments themselves, the White House, Congress. You can see all of these famous monuments as you fly in. The approach is really cinematic and beautiful under normal circumstances, but this is a horror show. As you can see now here, these two planes collide. Now, what's very strange is when you actually zoom out on all of this, you can see how far away the planes were and how clear the vision was for both aircraft upon their approach to Washington, D.C. I think it's worth showing you this. This is the sky cam atop a place called the Kennedy Center, a very famous performing arts center in Washington. And you can see the two aircrafts approaching each other from a very long distance. According to the readouts from the control tower, the pilot did nothing wrong. It was the military Blackhawk helicopter that refused to follow control tower orders. Now watch here. It's been an entire minute. You can see how long these two aircraft were flying directly at each other. And professional pilots who've contacted me tell me that this is clearly the helicopter's fault, that they were not listening to the air traffic controller. These are what the two aircraft look like. This is what the Blackhawk looks like. And the size and model of the American Airlines aircraft is an aircraft that you've probably flown in yourself if you've flown an American aircraft. There's a regional jet from Wichita, Kansas was flying in. And these are the all available crash videos right now. Black boxes have been recovered. Ladies and gentlemen, a horrifying moment. Incredibly sad and preventable. So there's so many questions that people need answers to. The air traffic controllers saying, I just saw a fireball and then it was gone. The collision incident seems totally preventable because if you listen to the air traffic controller at the time, they kept telling the helicopter to fly behind the plane. The air traffic tower cleared the American Airlines flight to land at Reagan. The tower also ordered the helicopter to fly behind the regional jet. The chopper is going horizontal, not up. Now, this is a video that was posted by someone as they were taking off from Reagan National in D.C. You can regularly see these helicopters flying around D.C. This is a standard occurrence. These helicopters are flying within very, very close range of the aircraft in Washington, D.C., and 30 for the death toll as of breaking moments ago. Death toll from the tragic Washington, D.C. aircraft collision has climbed to 30. President Trump has been up apparently all night, according to Fox News reporters. And the White House has confirmed that it was a U.S. military helicopter, as has Pete Hegseth. And what you can see here are the number of ambulances that are on the runway for Reagan National Airport as they are still recovering bodies. The police scanners have requests for the mobile morgues to be brought in. And here are the views of the wreckage. You can see here, these are the rescue boats, and these are the large chunks of the actual fuselage of the plane themselves. Washington saying that this is the deadliest disaster in Washington, D.C. in decades. The newly sworn in just yesterday Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy arriving at Reagan National Airport late last night, and I don't believe he's left. Over 100 ambulances have been sitting out on Reagan National Airport for over 5 hours. A horrific sign. Search and rescue going on right now for bodies and debris, and happened all throughout the night. Helicopters, police helicopters, and rescue helicopters and military helicopters flying throughout Washington, and just the human tragedy here. A man at DCA waiting for his wife who was coming back on Flight 5342 that collided with the Army Blackhawk helicopter. None of it makes any sense. Why would this helicopter not move when told to move? These are very sophisticated aircraft. I'm not trying to drum up any insane theories right now because there's so much that we need to know and it's not helpful. Wild speculation isn't helpful. But skepticism can never be wrong, and I know air travel. Anybody who's flown, and I have friends who fly, I have pilots who fly, and I'm able to fly up in the cockpit with them in their planes, and know how sophisticated and how safe modern air travel is. These kind of accidents just don't happen, especially in a place like Washington, D.C., where you have really, really sophisticated technology, both on both aircraft and, of course, on the Army aircraft. Some of the people who have died in the crash were Olympic figure skaters, including some Russians. U.S. and Russian figure skaters among passengers dead in the plane crash. 2 world champion Russian figure skaters, several U.S. figure skating champions, and coaches. It is an unspeakable tragedy. President Trump commenting, the airplane was on a perfect routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It was a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation, and it looks like it should have been prevented. Not good, Donald Trump saying effectively, something mysterious and strange seems to be happening here. The White House official press release from Donald Trump. I have been briefed on the terrible accident above Ronald Reagan Airport. May God bless their souls. Thank you to the incredible crew And the first responders I'm monitoring the situation will provide details as they arrive. Pete Hegseth saying, we can confirm that the aircraft involved in tonight's incidents was an Army UH-60 helicopter from Bravo Company 12th Aviation Division out of Davidson Army Airfield, Fort Belvoir, flying a training flight. We are working with local officials to provide additional information once it becomes available. And the Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, saying we're deploying all available Coast Guard resources for search and rescue of the horrific accident. We are monitoring the situation. We'll stand by with local responders and praying. So this is what we have so far, ladies and gentlemen. This and the horrible visions of hundreds of ambulances and morgues being set up on runways right now. I have a few questions, which is how can this happen? How does this happen with so many? There's a massive control tower there with so many individuals who are trained for these things. I mean, perhaps it was a deeply inexperienced pilot in the Blackhawk helicopter, but those Blackhawk helicopters, again, are incredibly sophisticated machines. How could you just run into a commercial airline that is massive that you can see from miles and miles away? You can see it in multiple videos. These two aircraft can see each other from miles away. You could see, it's like this absolute slow motion crash. And the helicopter, of course, can move very quickly and can move up and down at a literal breakneck pace. I don't pretend to be an expert in any of these things, but I do have pilots who've contacted me and who've said, this makes no sense. I woke up to multiple pilots that I know messaging me, some from American Airlines, saying, I've reviewed all of the sound on tape from the control towers, and it sounds like these individuals are something nefarious is going on here. The helicopter is completely at fault. The American Airlines plane was cleared for landing, and the pilot was doing what all pilots do when they approach Washington, D.C. Something bad happened with this Army helicopter. That's the best that we got, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Prayers for the victims. Horrible, horrible tragedy. Pray for them, and let's hope for more answers on this, because you certainly don't want to live in a country where these kind of things can happen. I mean, if they can happen to this commercial jet, they can happen to all commercial jets, right? I mean, in the darkest possible recesses of what could be happening here, you really don't want to ponder them. So I guess we won't at this time, and we'll wait for more information. Who was flying the helicopter? How trained were they? What was their background? And we'll go from there. For right now, prayers for the family. May God bless them and their souls.